Spider-Man: Homecoming is better than you remember.
That movie was epic!
Far from just a decent superhero flick. It's a tightly written story about Peter Parker as he grapples with responsibility, identity, and what it means to be a hero in a world already full of them. Just how well does Homecoming pull all this off? Let's dive in and find out. And if you end up liking this video, consider becoming a channel member today. I really appreciate it. First, we need to start before the beginning. The MCU's Spider-Man made his debut in Captain America: Civil War, when Tony recruits him to even out the teams. His first scene establishes a strong baseline for Peter's character, using dialogue, acting, and environmental storytelling to its advantage.
He's got milk crates to keep his junk on. He collects crap. And he's like any 16-year-old kid. He's not organized. His bed isn't made. Everything in there is about his personality and hopefully giving a window into who he is.
Peter's been Spider-Man for 6 months, saving people in his homemade costume. That definitely looks like something a kid would make. Peter's portrayed as a science whiz, not a seamster. He invented his web shooters, web fluid, and mentions building all kinds of tech with junk he found in the garbage.
With a box of scraps!
Even Tony's amazed. We also learn about Peter's motivations, why he's fighting crime in the first place.
When you can do the things that I can, but you don't, and then the bad things happen, they happen because of you.
Peter believes that because he possesses superpowers, he has a responsibility to use them to help people.
With great power comes great responsibility.
It's like that famous quote by Voltaire, I think. It's an underdeveloped philosophy. Taken literally, it requires him to act in any and all possible circumstances. Otherwise, he's personally responsible for the consequences, which is rather extreme. His subsequent movies will go a long way to flesh out this philosophy into something a lot more nuanced. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. The important thing is, Peter's goals start out noble and humble.
Yeah, just looking out for the little guy.
It's not about the glory. It's about helping out your average person, which is commendable. What else does this scene tell us? Peter's got money issues.
Is this grant, got money involved or whatever? No?
Yeah, it's pretty well funded.
Wow.
Look who you're talking to.
Why else would he need to dumpster dive for parts? Also, he's keen on keeping May in the dark, playing along with Tony's lie that this is about a grant, before he actually knows what's going on. He is concerned with how his Spider-Manning would impact her.
If she knew, she would freak out. And when she freaks out, I freak out.
These details will be expounded upon in Homecoming. Intellect and powers aside, these details help paint Peter as a normal kid, with all the problems and concerns of a normal kid. This may contribute to Peter's desire to help out the little guy. He's one of them. This will be further explored later. Peter takes part in the airport fight, with a fancy new suit Tony made him. In his interactions with the other heroes, he's characterized as awkward, rambly, and a little clueless, indicating his naivete and inexperience. He's a 15-year-old kid after all.
Well, I could have stuck the landing a little better. It's just a new suit. Wait, it's nothing, Mr. Stark. It's perfect, thank you.
Yeah, we don't really need to start a conversation.
Okay, Captain, big fan of Spider-Man.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later. Just,
Hey, everyone.
good job.
You have a metal arm? That is awesome, dude. Those wings carbon fiber? Gotta say, that's awesome.
I don't know if you've been in a fight before, but there's usually not this much talking.
All right, sorry, my bad.
But it's not like he's hopeless. He manages to web up some guys, at least temporarily, puts up a decent fight against Cap, and offers some helpful assists to his team. Plus, he's the one that figures out how to take down Giant Man. Civil War characterizes Peter as a naive kid with great potential, just trying to do the right thing. Now on to Homecoming. In the opening scene, Adrian Toomes and his crew get a job cleaning up the aftermath of 2012's Battle of New York, which, yeah, I never gave it much thought, but someone's gotta clean that up.
What drew me to this version of Spider-Man was the opening scene of Grand Central Terminal being destroyed after this huge battle from the first Avengers movie, and I was like, well, who are the guys who have to clean up that mess? And it was just such a cool aha moment.
The movie quickly establishes Toomes' character and motivation. He's just a normal guy, trying to support a family. So getting a big job like this is an incredible opportunity.
Peter, nothing is more important than family.
Which is why it's so devastating when the job's stolen by the Department of Damage Control. They screw him over, and he's pissed.
I'm all in on this. I could lose my house.
I'm sorry, sir. There's nothing I can do.
Maybe next time don't overextend yourself.
He's right. I overextended myself.
When the welfare of his family is threatened, Toomes is prone to lashing out in violence. It's a subtly telling moment that will inform his more extreme actions later. Damage control was created by Tony Stark, making him specifically, and the rich and powerful broadly, the source of Toomes' problems.
So now the assholes who made this mess are getting paid to clean it up.
Yeah, it's all rigged.
Those people, Pete, the rich and the powerful, they do whatever they want. Guys like us, you and me, they don't care about us.
So Toomes gets teabagged by the 1%. What's he gonna do about it?
What you gonna do, bitch?
Well, the scene's already established. He and his crew have gained familiarity with Chitauri tech.
You can't saw through that stuff. You gotta use the stuff they use.
And they've got a bunch of material they haven't turned in yet. Toomes decides his new modus operandi: steal scrap from damage control to make and sell high-tech weapons. He feels slighted by the rich and powerful, particularly those that have acquired power through underhanded means, so he feels justified using underhanded means himself.
He does corrupt things in order to fight what he sees as corruption, and I think he has a pretty strong argument. And he thinks to himself, what's fair about this? The question that is in his head is, where's mine? When they all have theirs, where's mine? I've been working for mine. You've taken this from me. So he says, I'll figure a way to get mine.
There's an interesting contradiction at the heart of Toomes. The rich and powerful screw over the little guy to get ahead. But Toomes, by putting these dangerous illegal weapons in the hands of criminals, also screws over the little guy to get ahead. As soon as he acquires a position of power, suddenly he doesn't care about the little guy either.
'Cause fuck 'em, that's why.
But if you think about it, Damage Control's actions aren't entirely unjustified.
All post-battle cleanup operations are now under our jurisdiction. Thank you for your service. We'll take it from here.
Please turn over any and all exotic materials that you've collected, or you will be prosecuted.
Tony and the government don't want alien tech falling into the wrong hands. I mean, imagine what could happen if a rando got a hold of a Chitauri gun. But there's only so much they can do. There's no way to completely stamp out the dissemination of this tech. It's gonna get out there, and it's going to fundamentally change the world of the MCU. It's also going to be fundamentally changed by the introduction of aliens and superheroes.
Things are never gonna be the same now. I mean, look at this. You got aliens. You got big green guys tearing down buildings.
Homecoming does a wonderful job incorporating itself into the wider context of the MCU. Toomes' crew works with various technologies, salvaged from famous disasters.
Dark Elf tech that was left behind. We have Chitauri tech left over from the Battle of New York. We've got Iron Man tech. We've got leftover stuff from Civil War.
There's a photo of Bruce Banner, among other well-known scientists, in one of Peter's classes. A teacher holds a lecture on the Sokovia Accords. The school shows Captain America PSAs.
Head lice.
Vibranium is a known and studied element, and the Avengers have become household names.
I got a hot date with Black Widow coming up.
Are you an Avenger?
Hi, I'm Captain America.
F Thor, marry Iron Man, and kill Hulk.
While the MCU has developed plot points, characters, and other aspects of the world across multiple movies, this is really the first time we see how the average person's life is impacted. Of course, a kid in this world would learn about the Sokovia Accords in school. They're part of an important current event. And of course he'd learn about Bruce Banner in science class. He's an influential scientist, isn't he?
The way we've been talking about it is all the other movies we've seen in the Marvel Universe have been sort of the penthouse level. But now I feel like with Ant-Man, and then also especially with Spider-Man, now we're seeing the ground level of what life is like in the MCU. We're seeing like what a day in the life is like of a kid who goes to high school in a world where the Avengers exist.
This level of care for world building is much appreciated. When characters are appropriately influenced by the world they inhabit, it creates a stronger sense of cohesion between setting and character. This makes the world more believable and encourages deeper audience investment. Each movie adds to a growing history, a series of causes and effects that have a meaningful impact on the story, world, and characters. Speaking of characters impacted by history, the events of the Avengers are fundamental to Toomes' motivations.
The world's changing.
It's time we change too.
When you get to set a movie like this in the Marvel Universe, there are so many issues that all those other movies have raised that it's fun to sort of tackle them and use them to motivate our villain.
He feels like a genuine part of the world of the MCU. He and the rest of Homecoming's characters belong. We cut to 8 years later to find that
business is good.
And we're met with a major continuity flub. Apparently, Homecoming takes place 8 years after Avengers, landing the movie in 2020. But the movie also establishes it's set 2 months after Civil War, which puts it in 2016. So which is it? Well, 2016 turns out much more consistent with the movies that come before and after, so I think it's safe to assume that's the correct date.
8 years, not a word from the feds.
Nope, it's actually been 4 years. I'm honestly not sure how this kind of mistake was made, especially since Homecoming is otherwise meticulously written. We're given a clever new perspective on Peter's role in Civil War via a video he made on his phone. We're shown, in more depth, how little he knew about what was going on.
No one has actually told me why I'm in Berlin, or what I'm doing. Something about Captain America going crazy.
Despite his ignorance, Peter took part regardless at Tony's request. He was blown away by the new suit, and stoked to participate in such an epic fight. The vlog reframes these events from Civil War from a more personal perspective. And that's what's so clever about this sequence. Not for the last time, we're put in Peter's headspace. Everything seems bigger, more exciting, more extravagant than before.
Is it your first time on a private plane?
First time on any plane. It was the most amazing thing that's ever happened. So Mrs. Stark was like, hey, Underoos! And I just sort of flipped in, and I stole Cap's shield, and I was like, hey, what's up, everybody?
It's the perspective of a kid getting introduced to a bigger world. This allows the audience to understand Peter's excitement, and why he asks,
What, does that mean that I'm an Avenger?
No.
When's our next retreat, you know? Like,
What, next mission?
yeah, the missions.
We'll call you.
Here, we establish Peter's motivations for the movie. He wants to become an Avenger, to get to take part in more big important missions like the one in Civil War. As we'll soon see, this desire completely overtakes his life. 2 months after Civil War, Peter texts and calls Happy incessantly. He's Peter's point man for potential future missions, so Peter's constantly leaving messages updating Happy on his life and when he's available.
I really want you to call me back.
He's opened up his schedule as much as possible. He quit all his clubs except academic decathlon, which he's often absent from anyway, and he's not spending much time with his best friend Ned. All because of this Stark internship he claims is keeping him busy, i.e. being Spider-Man, and waiting for Tony to hit him up.
Dear Slim, you still ain't called a roll. I hope you have a chance. I ain't mad. I just think it's up you don't answer fans.
The movie shows us a normal day in Peter's life, and aside from the world building I already outlined, it concisely communicates important info, like Peter's personality, his mindset, and his relationships. Basically, Peter's status quo. It's kind of amazing how densely packed this 4-minute sequence is. Let's start with his dynamic with Ned.
We'll build my new Lego Death Star.
What?
So lame.
No way, that's awesome. How many pieces?
This exchange tells us Peter cares more about Ned than his popularity. Regardless of what others might think, he's excited to do geek shit with his friend.
My new Lego Death Star.
What? No way, how many pieces?
There are things Peter values over his reputation. This goes hand in hand with his willingness to quit all his clubs and bail on AD.
Peter's not going to Washington.
No.
Why not?
Really? Right before nationals?
Peter will end up sacrificing basically all of his social capital for more Spider-Man time. The only exception comes in the form of his crush, Liz. He's enamored with her, and any attempts he'll make to improve his reputation are solely to impress her. We're shown Peter's dynamic with his bully Flash.
How do we calculate linear acceleration between points A and B?
It's the product of sine of the angle and gravity divided by the mass.
Nope. Peter, you still with us?
Mass cancels out, so it's just gravity times sine.
Right.
Peter's this smart while not even trying, implying even greater intellect when he's locked in, while Flash tries hard and still can't compete. He's jealous. Despite his best efforts, he's proven academically inferior time and again.
See, Flash, being the fastest isn't always the best if you are wrong.
You can't just quit on us, stroll up, and be welcomed back by everyone.
Hey, welcome back, Peter. Flash, you're back to first alternate.
What?
He's taking your place.
Rather than the jock picking on the nerd, a potentially outdated stereotype, it's a rivalry for status and accolades within a specific social circle. I'd say it's a more nuanced and realistic dynamic.
And he is frustrated with Peter's character because Peter is so talented and so smart, he doesn't need to study and he can skate by, as opposed to Flash, who studies extremely hard and works his butt off and still second fiddle to Peter Parker.
Flash is a more important character than you might think. While Toombs is Spider-Man's villain, Flash is Peter Parker's. Without him, the stakes in Peter's personal life wouldn't be as high, which is crucial to Peter's arc. A small detail in this scene is Peter's laptop, which is duct taped together. Civil War established he has to dumpster dive for parts, so we can assume he built his own laptop out of junk he found.
With a box of scrap!
This resourcefulness is expanded on in chemistry class, when Peter uses school supplies to make an improved web fluid while no one's looking. The upgraded formula shows he's always improving. Peter's not one to rest on his laurels. Being Spider-Man is an ongoing process, which might as well be the premise of these movies. We meet MJ, a quirky girl with a strange fixation on Peter.
He already quit marching band and robotics lab. I'm not obsessed with him, I'm just very observant.
Hey, where are you going? What are you hiding, Peter? I'm just kidding, I don't care. Bye. Alright, so we should run some drills.
She definitely sniffed his seat after he got up. As far as this movie goes, there's not much else to say about her. I suppose she has a little arc, where at first she has no friends, but comes to view Peter, Ned, and the rest of AD as her friends.
You guys are losers.
But then why do you sit with us?
Because I don't have any friends. My friends call me MJ.
I thought you didn't have any friends.
I didn't.
Because she's so smart, she comes off a little weird. People don't quite understand her and what's going on in her head. You know, she secretly does want to be friends with Peter and Ned. She just would never want them to know that.
But that's it. After school, Peter makes a quick stop at Del Mar's for a sandwich. After some friendly banter with the owner, which establishes a connection that will be relevant later, he rushes out, ducks into an alley, and suits up. He does so hurriedly, carelessly tossing aside his backpack. Peter couldn't wait to get the fuck out of school. He spent the whole day anxiously watching the clock. That, combined with the music and directing, energized the sequence with a kind of forward momentum. Like Peter, the audience couldn't relax until he finally suited up.
Finally.
Tension gets released. It helps us empathize with and understand Peter's mindset.
Imagine if you had Spider-Man's abilities and could do all this amazing stuff. You would spend every moment of your day trying to maximize the amount of time you get to be Spider-Man, because it would be the best feeling in the world. At the beginning of the movie, Peter loves being Spider-Man, but he doesn't love being Peter Parker. Peter Parker sort of represents everything that he was, which to him is just a weird, outsidery, sciencey nerd. Now he has this whole new future life ahead of him, being a superhero and having met Tony Stark and thinking that he beat up Captain America and all that. You know, that's all, he's already moved on.
Peter spends the rest of the day solving small problems, messing around, and fucking up.
Shouldn't steal cars, it's bad.
It's my car, dumbass! Shut that off!
I was just trying to...
my car! I'm working nice!
His inexperience is on full display. Given the build-up, Peter's Spider-Manning is anticlimactic, which is exactly how Peter feels.
I'm just, feel like I could be doing more. You know, just curious when the next real mission's gonna be.
Peter doesn't consider what he's been doing important enough to classify as real missions. He isn't satisfied solving minor inconveniences, which is why he gets excited when he sees some guys breaking into an ATM building.
Finally, something good.
He sees a crime, and his first thought is, fuck yeah. Probably not the appropriate response. Because of Civil War, Peter's obsessed with recapturing that scale, excitement, and significance.
I mean, what if Mrs. Stark needs me or something, or I don't know, something big goes down?
Are you an Avenger?
Yeah, basically.
Can't you just be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man?
But I'm ready for more than that now.
He's like an addict, chasing a high. Sadly, no one takes him seriously.
You're that Spider guy on YouTube, right? Just keep treating me like a kid all the time.
But you are a kid. Just stay away from anything too dangerous. I'm responsible for making sure you're responsible, okay?
I gotta take him down.
Take him down now, huh? Steady, Crockett, there are people who handle this sort of thing.
This has convinced Peter he needs to prove he's worthy of being an Avenger. He needs to demonstrate that he's a mature, effective hero, so he's eager to fight some real bad guys. The crooks use alien tech to grab money out of the ATMs. Peter confronts them, doing so in a theatrical and quippy way.
Whoa, you're the Avengers! Thor, Hulk, good to finally meet you guys. Iron Man! Hey, what are you doing robbing a bank? You're a billionaire.
Peter's a very jokey superhero.
Thought you got away from me, didn't you? I got you. Right, where I want you. Surprise! Hey, Big Bird, this doesn't belong to you.
Oh, God.
Hey, guys, the illegal weapons deal ferry was at 10:30. You missed it. Are you guys okay?
My bad, that was a little hard.
I gotta say, the other guy was way better with that thing. I'm shocked. Just a typical homecoming on the outside of an invisible jet, finding my girlfriend's dad.
It's either a product of Peter's confidence, or intended to instill that confidence in himself. Given Peter's inexperience, I'm inclined to think the latter. Either interpretation helps establish character in a subtle way. In the altercation, Delmar's shop gets blown up, and Delmar is dead. Nah, I'm just joshing you. By some miracle, he survives, and Peter rushes in to save him, but this allows the bad guys to get away. Peter calls Happy again, and he answers this time. Peter tries to tell him about the ATM robbers, but Happy brushes him off. Because of his spam texts and voicemails, Happy tends not to take him seriously.
I don't have time for ATM robberies or the thoughtful notes you leave behind.
Happy's busy at Avengers Tower, packing up everything to be moved to a new facility upstate. Keep small moments like this in mind. No detail is wasted in this movie. What follows is an interesting culmination of consequences. Because Peter's trying to keep his schedule open for Tony, he couldn't meet Ned after school. Because Peter was distracted by Liz, he unknowingly agreed to have Ned over later that night instead.
I'll knock out the basic bones of the Death Star at my place, and then I'll come by afterwards because... That'd be great.
And because Peter was overeager to get in costume, his backpack and clothes are missing. As a result, he has to sneak into his room as Spider-Man, accidentally exposing his secret to Ned. Spoiler alert, the movie is exceedingly good at confronting Peter with the consequences of his actions. So Spider-Man screws up and shows Ned as Peter. How embarrassing. He also lets it slip that Tony made his fancy suit. He gets Ned to swear not to tell anyone, and makes up an excuse why he can't join him and May for Thai. You know, shouldn't May be kinda suspicious of how ripped Peter is? A 15-year-old getting this shredded doesn't just happen. I'd think he was juicing. At the restaurant, May notices Peter sulking. She tries to cheer him up by making a bunch of dumb jokes.
It's too larby? Not larby enough. How many times do I have to say larb before you talk to me? You know I larb you.
And we get to see where Peter gets his sense of humor from.
Sticky rice pudding. It's on the house.
That's nice of him.
I think he larbs you.
She's concerned about his internship. From her perspective, it keeps him stressed and distracted all the time. May is an attentive aunt, concerned that Peter is getting overworked and trying to look out for him. She cares. The movie does a good job getting across their dynamic. They share mannerisms, there's implied history, and the actors have chemistry, which helps imply a familial relationship. When they see a news report about Delmars, May says,
If you spot something like that happening, you turn and you run the other way.
We get more insight into why Peter is against telling May he's Spider-Man.
You can't tell anybody about this. You gotta keep it a secret. A secret? Why? You know what she's like. If she finds out people try and kill me every single night, she's not gonna let me do this anymore. How will we ever get through this alone?
She worries for Peter's safety, and probably wouldn't be cool with him fighting supervillains. Even before knowing he's Spider-Man, she worries. Later, May will confront Peter on his constant disappearances.
I know you left detention. I know you left the hotel room in Washington. I know you sneak out of this house every night. Peter, you have to tell me what's going on.
Peter's relationship with May is greatly impacted by the conflict between his two lives. The more he neglects Peter Parker for Spider-Man, the more upset and concerned she becomes, which is another consequence of Peter's rash actions. The next day, Peter tells Ned he got his powers from a spider bite, and that the spider's dead now. This is pretty much all we get on Peter's superhero origins, on what led him to fight crime in the first place. We don't even know if there was a tragic Uncle Ben event. Those events are usually compulsory.
My parents are dead.
The closest we get is one line that, if you squint, hints at it.
May cannot know. I cannot do that to her right now. I mean, everything that's happened with her, Please.
It seems like the Russos intended for there to be one when they introduced Spider-Man in Civil War.
He refers to Uncle Ben's death here in a speech in the most subtle way. How long ago did he die? Were they in a house? Did they have to give the house up because of the mortgage? Are they now in this apartment?
But neither movie confirms anything. I mean, obviously Peter had an uncle that died. May's his aunt by marriage after all. But whether this had anything to do with him becoming Spider-Man is unknown. Peter and Ned come across the aftermath of Delmars, and the tone turns serious.
You were here? You could have died.
This is a grim reminder of the dangers Peter exposes himself to, and the ramifications of getting involved. Delmar's shop was destroyed, and people could have died, including him. Thus far, Peter's been treating this whole thing like a LARP, so this is a sobering moment for both him and the audience. While it is interrupted by a joke.
Do you lay eggs? What?
This likely indicates how this reality hasn't sunken in yet for Peter. It won't be until later that he finally gets it. What follows is a montage of Ned asking questions about Peter and his powers.
If I drink your blood, will I become Spider-Man too? Yes! No!
In gym class, Ned asks to be Peter's guy in the chair, someone who sits in front of a bunch of computer screens and feeds Peter whatever information he needs. At first, I thought Ned asked this because he just thinks fighting crime is cool, but there's apparently meant to be a deeper implication.
And all he wants to do is just be like Peter's, right hand man, because he's sort of losing that connection with him, and he thinks
that Peter's getting too cool for him, and that he needs to like up his game so they can, you know, be together forever basically, because that's all he is. He's just a bro.
While interesting, I don't think there's enough in the movie to properly convey this. There is more depth to Ned's character, just not this. We'll touch on that later. We get more cool attention to detail. The teacher compliments Peter's effortless sit-ups, so he starts feigning struggle. Peter has to be constantly conscious of what a normal teenager should be capable of.
And yeah, I would love to play football, but I couldn't then, so I shouldn't now.
Sure, because you're different.
But I can't tell anybody that, so I'm not.
It's a small detail that highlights the physicality of having superpowers. It's not like he takes off the suit and suddenly he's a normal kid. The movie uses moments like these to remind the audience. They overhear that Liz has a crush on Spider-Man. Ned, trying to be a wingman, blurts out that Peter knows Spider-Man. Peter says he met him through the Stark internship. Flash says he should invite him to Liz's party if that's the case. Peter could just claim Ned was joking, but he doesn't want to embarrass himself in front of Liz. Similarly, he could tell Flash Spider-Man's too busy for parties, but he senses an opportunity to impress Liz. The only times he cares about his reputation involve his crush. That night, at Liz's house, Peter has serious second thoughts.
This is a mistake. Hey, let's just go home. No. I cannot do this. Spider-Man is not a party trick. God, what am I doing?
As an impulsive kid, Peter's tempted to use Spider-Man to impress Liz and dunk on Flash. But there's this burgeoning, maturing sense of responsibility within Peter, telling him he shouldn't use Spider-Man for something so petty. This internal conflict contributes to Peter's character arc. Peter sees an explosion in the distance and rushes over to investigate. There's a funny moment where, being in the suburbs, he has no tall buildings to swing off of, which is a clever little subversion. Peter finds some men trying to sell alien weapons to someone. Shocker is firing off shots as demonstration, to his partner's chagrin. Peter deduces they supplied the ATM robbers. Suddenly, Peter's phone rings and gives him away. It's Ned, presumably calling because he was supposed to return to the party in costume. The men think their customer set them up, so Peter intervenes.
Hey, come on, you're gonna shoot somebody shooting me!
This shows off Peter's heroic nature. He won't hesitate to help someone in need, even if they are a criminal. This mentality will inform an interesting decision he makes later. This quickly turns into a car chase, of sorts, and leads to Peter haphazardly dashing through people's yards. The men give Toombs a call, so when Peter's about to catch them, he swoops in and snatches his ass. When Toombs flies him high enough, Peter's suit automatically deploys a parachute, yanking him out of his grip and plummeting Peter into the water below. Tony then swoops in and snatches his ass.
Taken by the snap, crackle, pop.
Got a lot of swooping and ass snatching happening in quick succession. How did Tony know Peter needed help and where to find him?
Did you put a tracker in my suit or something?
I put everything in your suit.
We can assume he received some kind of distress signal from the suit, either related to the sudden increase in altitude, the sudden decrease in altitude, or the submersion in water. So he remotely deployed the nearest armor to help him. Tony's arrival isn't coincidence. Peter tells him about the illegal arms dealers. Tony says there are other people who can take care of it. It's too dangerous for him. Desperate to prove himself, Peter tries to assure Tony he can totally take on these guys.
Mr. Stark, you didn't have to come all the way out here. I had that. I was fine.
Can't you just be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man?
But I'm ready for more than that now.
No, you're not.
Tony encourages Peter to stay close to the ground, help out the little people, and to call happy if he runs into the arms dealers or their weapons again. Instead of tempering Peter's ambitions, this just makes him more determined to prove himself.
Stay close to the ground. What is he talking about?
On his way back to the party, he finds a bit of alien tech left behind and decides to investigate on his own. Also,
Sorry, Peter. I guess we're still losers.
womp womp. When they get back to Toombs' workshop, Shocker's stoked, but Toombs is pissed.
How many times have I told you not to fire them out in the open? Under the radar. That's how we survive. If you bring damage control or the Avengers down here, we're through.
This is a great bit of world building. The movie retcons in Toombs' operation going back all the way to Avengers 1. To account for this, the movie establishes they keep things low-key, to avoid the eye of the MCU's big players. That's why we've never heard of them before. Could you imagine if a new MCU entry tried to imply an ultra-powerful organization was influencing the whole world for decades, if not millennia, and it never came up? That would be fucking stupid. When Toombs fires him, Shocker threatens to expose his operation to his family. And we all know how strongly Toombs feels about family. He's practically Vin Diesel.
Family, family, Family.
So he disintegrates him.
I thought this was the anti-gravity gun.
It's unclear if this was Toombs' first kill. We've never seen him kill before, and given he's trying to keep a low profile, I wouldn't necessarily assume he has. He also meant to use the anti-gravity gun, so it's not clear if he intended to. But on the other hand, he doesn't react much to Shocker's demise, and he won't have any hesitation about killing going forward.
I'll kill you and everybody you love. That's what I'll do to protect my family, Pete.
So, I don't know.
Here. Now you're the Shocker.
I know Marvel's been on a passing the torch craze recently, but that's some crazy turnover. The scene shows the audience an escalation in Toombs' villainy, from illegal arms dealer to murderer. This ups the stakes and creates more danger for Peter. Like the Delmar scene, we're reminded this isn't a game. The next day, in shop class, Peter tinkers with the tech he found. Ned's able to provide some insight and suggests using the school lab to run some tests. And later, Ned will demonstrate his computer hacking skills. This goes to show that he's intelligent in his own right, and sets up his guy in the chair moment towards the end. Peter spots Shocker 2 in the school. They're investigating an energy pulse they detected from that location, hoping to find their lost tech. Said energy pulse was caused by Peter, recklessly hammering it. They can't find anything, so they leave, and Peter sticks a spider tracker on them. Ned and Peter track them to Maryland. Peter wants to investigate, but how's he meant to get all the way there? The answer comes in the form of academic decathlon nationals, being held in DC, not too far away. There are a few conveniences here. Toombs' men track down an energy pulse to Peter's school. They look around for a minute and then bounce all the way to another state. Peter's fortunate they didn't stick around longer, otherwise the timing wouldn't match up so perfectly for nationals. And the fact they're being held close by is astoundingly lucky. So Peter approaches the AD team as they board the bus for DC. They're all happy to have him, aside from Flash, of course. Fun fact, Peter's teacher is the same guy Banner bribed with pizza in the 2008 Incredible Hulk. Talk about an interconnected universe. During the ride,
Frank Sinatra.
Fort Sumter.
Hitler had a point.
Okay, guys, let's focus. Next one.
Peter gets a surprise call from Happy about why he's leaving New York. This reminds him about the suit's tracker. When they get to their hotel rooms, Peter has Ned hack into the suit to help get the tracker out.
So you're lying to Iron Man now?
No, I'm not lying. Just doesn't really get what I can do yet.
Ned is an interesting combination of immature and self-aware. He thinks Peter being Spider-Man, stopping crime and fighting supervillains, is cool.
Some guy tried to vaporize me with it.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Awesome. Not awesome. Totally uncool, that guy.
But this is recontextualized when you realize he's under the impression he's an Avenger.
Are you an Avenger?
Yeah, basically.
Dude, you're an Avenger. If any one of us has a chance with a senior girl, it's you.
He thinks Iron Man has given Peter the go-ahead to do all this, which is why he's uncertain about hacking the suit Tony gave him. In the process, they discover a bunch of other features locked behind the training wheels protocol.
Turn it off.
I don't think that's a good idea. I mean, they're probably blocked for a reason.
Ned believes if Tony Stark, an established, experienced superhero, thinks Peter needs these features blocked, he should listen. Ned ends up being the voice of reason. He has a more objective view of Peter.
Just again treating me like a kid all the time. It's not cool.
But you are a kid.
He's self-aware. He's an immature kid, but he knows he's an immature kid. He thinks wiser, more mature authority figures probably know more about their limitations than they do. Peter's just a kid, and shouldn't overestimate his abilities. Of course, Peter doesn't listen. After removing the tracker, he talks Ned into turning off the training wheels protocol. While skulking out, he runs into Liz. She and the others are sneaking into the pool to have some fun. She invites him, and it pains him to have to decline. Peter broods from the rooftop, watching as everyone else gets to have a good time without him. He once again sacrifices his social life for Spider-Man. He gets suited up, and a helpful AI voice greets him.
Good evening, Peter. Congratulations on completing the rigorous training wheels protocol.
She plots a course for him towards the spider tracker he planted. He finds Toombs' men in a van at a gas station. He uses recon mode to listen in on them. They're in the middle of a heist. Peter decides now's a good time to try a bunch of different suit modes the AI suggests. Since he has no experience with any of them, he completely fucks up and nearly gives himself away. The AI says there are 576 possible web shooter combos. In a moment of frustration, he tells her to just pick one. Damage control trucks drive by, and Toombs is seen flying after them. He opens a sci-fi hole in the roof. Peter gives chase, and a fight ensues. But because Peter told the AI to pick whatever web shooter settings, he uses them wrong. He prevents Toombs from taking anything, but gets knocked out in the truck in the process.
Come on, man, I don't need training wheels.
Peter's insistence on turning off the training wheels protocol bit him in the ass, just like that spider. He wakes up, trapped in the damage-controlled deep storage vault. The doors won't open until morning, so Peter passes the time talking to the AI, who he names Karen. He's clearly a SpongeBob fan.
I'd like you to meet my computer wife, Karen.
He decides to run the web shooter refresher course. He actually takes the time to understand his suit before using it next. How about that? And the next time we see him trying different web shooter settings, he's quite adept at it. Afterwards, he and Karen just talk.
Should I tell Liz that I'm Spider-Man?
Who is Liz?
Karen is both intriguing and perplexing. While she starts as a helpful AI, a la Jarvis, she quickly becomes a character in her own right, a la Jarvis. She's curious, encouraging, and has unique opinions. She's also supportive, encouraging Peter to pursue Liz.
Is that Liz?
Please put Ned back on the phone.
You should tell her how you feel. This is your chance, Peter. Kiss her.
Whoa there. That's a little fast for a Spider-Man 1 reference. Karen takes an interest in Peter beyond her function as a Spider-Man suit.
Hey, Karen, what's up?
Hey, Peter. How was your Spanish quiz?
It is I, Thor, son of Odin. No, that's definitely not what you want to watch. Just...
Your impressions are very funny.
Should I tell Liz that I'm Spider-Man? I mean, imagine how disappointed she'd be when she sees me.
Well, if I were her, I wouldn't be disappointed at all.
She seems very interested in Peter. Is the movie trying to imply she's got a thing for him?
Who is Liz?
She's the best. She's awesome.
You've fallen in love with another woman? I'm your wife!
If she does, it never actually goes anywhere. In fact, Karen completely vanishes after this movie, never to be heard from or mentioned again. It's odd. The movie goes out of its way to give her all this characterization, only to memory hole her after this movie. What gives? The writers could have easily cut her from the script without changing the story, so why add her if they didn't intend to do anything with her? I looked up her wiki just to double check if she was ever used again, and it says, and I quote, "Following Mysterio's attack in Europe, the Stark Spider-Man suit was destroyed, eliminating Karen as well." Oh. She's fucking dead.
In the arms of the angel.
If you like the video so far, and you're interested in getting more out of the channel, you can become a member. Just hit join below. For $1, you get access to custom emojis and members-only polls. For $3, you get access to members-only videos and end-of-video shoutouts. So consider becoming a channel member today. I appreciate your support. Now back to the video. Tired of waiting, Peter searches for something to help him escape. He finds another device like the one he had, and Karen tells him it's an explosive Chitauri energy core, which is activated by radiation. Realizing the ticking time bomb Ned has in his backpack, Peter tries to override the door's time lock with Karen's help. With what's on the line, he's persistent, and finally gets it after a couple hundred attempts. The AD team wins nationals, and heads over to the Washington Monument. Peter calls Ned. Since the vault had no signal, and Ned's phone was off for nationals, this is the first time Peter's able to get a hold of him. Peter tries to warn him about the core, but he gets cut off, just as it goes through the X-ray. Despite being clearly visible on the screen, security lets it through anyway, which is pretty convenient. An alien energy core doesn't raise any red flags to these guys? Really? Ned and the others get in an elevator, and the core explodes, firing beams into the ceiling, causing critical damage. It's extremely convenient. It explodes in such a way it doesn't immediately kill Ned and everyone else in the elevator. It's probably the second most contrived moment in the whole movie. You know what? The most contrived moment also involves a Chitauri core exploding. Are we sure it's an energy core and not a plot device? Peter climbs the monument, and several problems start stacking. The elevator will soon drop and kill everyone inside. The best entrance is at the top of the monument. Peter never reinstalled the parachute, so if he falls, he'll die. He needs to build enough momentum to break through the window, and armed helicopters are telling him to stand down. Peter handles the situation shockingly well, demonstrating his ability to work under pressure and put himself at risk for the sake of others. He also shows off more of his clever thinking, using the obstacle of the helicopter as a tool to save his friends. Peter catches the elevator in the nick of time. He holds it up so everyone can get off.
Hey, how you doing? Don't worry about it, I got you.
Peter disguises his voice because the people on the elevator know him and what he sounds like. Not all superhero properties account for this, but it's particularly important here, because it becomes a relevant plot point later. Peter saves everyone and escapes. Somehow. Not sure how, with the heightened security outside. Plus his stuff is stuck to a tree nearby, so it's gonna be hard getting it with no one noticing. But whatever. Technically, this whole disaster was Peter's fault. He directly contradicted Tony's instructions, and did so for partly selfish reasons. It's just that this time, he took care of it. This time, everything worked out. But what happens when it don't? At his warehouse, Toomes seethes over Spider-Man's interference, and resolves to kill him. He's then distracted by a news report on the Washington Monument incident, and has a very interesting reaction. He looks almost concerned. The movie then immediately cuts to Liz reuniting with her mom.
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
In the aftermath of the DC incident, a Spider-Mania sweeps the school, which Peter is quite chuffed about.
My main goal is to blow up and then act like I don't know nobody.
It's a taste of the recognition he's been seeking. This serves to reinforce Peter's actions, to convince him he's on the right track to becoming an Avenger.
Ned, I'm probably never gonna come back here. Mr. Stark is moving the Avengers upstate, so when I bring this guy in...
Peter wants to completely sacrifice his personal life to be Spider-Man, and an Avenger, full-time. It's the naive and impetuous decision-making of a kid overeager to grow up. Both Tony and Ned try to help him sort out his priorities, to get him to focus more on Peter Parker, not just Spider-Man.
It's never too early to start thinking about college. I got some pull at MIT.
But we have a Spanish quiz. You want to be a high school dropout?
But a little praise and Peter's convinced he's hot shit.
I am so far beyond high school right now.
Peter gets detention for ditching nationals, but he ditches that too. He lifts up some lockers with his super strength, where he finds his old suit and spare web fluid. While I understand why he'd hide extra web fluid at school, just in case, I'm not sure why he'd keep his old suit here. Currently, he has no plans to use it again. You'd think he'd just throw it out, given how advanced and useful his new suit is. The reason it's here is because he'll need it for the climax. While I appreciate that the movie's bothered to set this up, I still have to question Peter's motivations here. Karen runs facial recognition on the guys under the bridge. She digs up a criminal record for the buyer, Aaron Davis, including an address. Peter confronts him with the enhanced interrogation protocol. It's meant to make him more intimidating, but it doesn't really work.
I'm not a girl, I'm a man!
Davis sees right through him. He's a nervous, clueless kid. Seeing that his threats are worthless, Peter tries pleading with him.
These guys are selling weapons that are crazy dangerous. Look, if one of them can just cut Delmar's bodega in half, imagine...
No Delmar's.
Best sandwich in Queens.
Subhaven's pretty good.
Too much bread.
I like bread.
Come on, man, please.
Davis isn't willing to cooperate, until he learns Peter's a local. He's one of them, which Davis appreciates. Peter makes progress because Davis, a little guy, can relate to him, something that makes Peter kind of unique among superheroes. He's most effective when he's a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
The other night you told that dude, if you're gonna shoot somebody, shoot me. It's pretty ballsy.
Davis is also impressed by Peter's bravery. Peter didn't need some grand Avengers-level act of valor to prove himself. This simple, instinctive act of heroism was enough to show he's a hero. Peter succeeds in this scene for reasons he doesn't realize yet. Davis tells Peter the arms dealers are making a sale on the Staten Island ferry later that day. He gets aboard and finds Shocker 2 speaking to a potential buyer. As he spies on him, Peter suddenly gets a call from Tony. He tries to lie about where he is, but the ferry horn gives him away. He abruptly ends the call and jumps in to break up the deal. Peter fights them off, but is interrupted by the FBI. Turns out, Peter fucked up their sting operation.
Oops!
Toomes flies in to back up his men.
You're messing with things you don't understand.
He webs up Toomes' high-tech gun, tases it, and yanks it away. It overloads, and fires beams across the entire ferry, splitting it in half. This is probably the most absurd thing the movie tries to get away with. Not only did this explosion happen to exactly cut the boat down the middle, and not only did not a single person get injured or killed because of this, but the boat doesn't instantly sink like a brick. This is a ludicrous series of events, wildly unlikely and perhaps impossible. In the chaos, Toomes flees with Shocker 2. Peter has Karen identify the strongest points of the ship. He webs them up and desperately tries to hold the ferry together, in what is probably a Spider-Man 2 reference. While a smart plan for the heat of the moment, he fails, and Iron Man has to bail him out. Again. Tony's here, and he's pissed.
Hey, Mr. Stark, can I do anything? What do you want me to do?
I think you've done enough.
Since Peter removed the tracker, how did Tony know where he was? Well, he likely knew the FBI was investigating an illegal arms deal on the Staten Island ferry, and during his call with Peter, he heard a boat horn. He put 2 and 2 together and figured out what Peter was really up to. While Tony saves the ferry, Toombs makes a decision. If they're already on Iron Man's radar, they might as well go for that big job his lackey's been suggesting. There's no point being subtle anymore. And again, Peter's actions unintentionally radicalize Toombs. We cut back to Tony scolding Peter.
Is everyone okay?
No thanks to you.
No thanks to me? None of this would have happened if you had just listened to me! If you even cared, you'd actually be here.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Let's talk Tony. He's a busy guy, so Peter's had little, if any, direct contact with him since Civil War. This might lead one to think Tony doesn't care, but that couldn't be further from the truth.
Hey, Happy. Here's my report for tonight. I helped this lost old Dominican lady. She was really nice and bought me a churro.
Build up your game helping the little people. Like that lady that bought you the churro.
I'm at band practice.
That's odd. Happy told me you quit band 6 weeks ago.
Despite Happy's callousness towards Peter, he ensures all his updates get to Tony. In truth, he's actually fond of Peter.
Told you he's a good kid.
Tony is too, which is why he's actually interested in Peter's mundane life updates, able to recall even minor things, like getting a churro or quitting a club. Tony genuinely cares.
Nice work in DC. My dad never really gave me a lot of support, and I'm just trying to break the cycle of shame.
What if somebody had died tonight? Different story, right? Because that's on you. And if you died, I feel like that's on me.
And because he cares, he took Peter's concerns seriously.
I did listen, kid. Who do you think called the FBI? Do you know that I was the only one who believed in you? Everyone else said I was crazy to recruit a 14-year-old kid.
Tony treats Peter like a kid, because he is one, and Tony wants to look out for him, to keep his best interests in mind. That's why he doesn't want Peter to act recklessly and get into situations he's not prepared for. He wants Peter to focus on the things kids should focus on, like school, which is why he likes to be kept abreast of Peter's life updates. Back to the ferry incident, Tony's pissed at how irresponsibly Peter acted.
I just wanted to be like you.
And I wanted you to be better.
When he was younger, Tony was a lot more reckless and arrogant. That brought harm to himself, his loved ones, and other innocent people. He hoped Peter would be better than that.
In a way, I think Tony looks at him as, wow, you know, this is a really capable he's got a good moral psychology. He doesn't have the limitations that Tony was born into by being in this military-industrial complex family.
But now, seeing how Peter endangered himself and others in an ego-driven desire for recognition and reward, Tony concludes getting him involved at all was a mistake. He should never have brought him to Germany in Civil War, and he should never have given him the suit, so he takes it back.
Please, this is all I have. I'm nothing without this suit.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
This might be the most significant and meaningful line in the whole story. Throughout the movie, he sacrificed his life as Peter Parker in favor of Spider-Man, to the point he doesn't think he's anyone anymore without the suit. But this is all wrong. What made him great wasn't his powers or his tech. Tony wasn't impressed by Spider-Man. He was impressed by Peter Parker, by his strength of character.
When you can do the things that I can, but you don't, and then the bad things happen, they happen because of you. Yeah, just looking out for the little guy.
But Peter's lost sight of this. He's gotten so wrapped up in becoming an Avenger, he has convinced himself he needs this high-tech suit to be a hero at all. He's forgotten his roots, forgotten where it all started, and he's lost Tony's trust in the process. Following the ferry incident, Peter quits being Spider-Man. After all, he's convinced he's nothing without the suit. This gives him ample time to focus on his personal life. He's more active in class, and he spends more time with Ned. He even apologizes to Liz and asks her to homecoming, and she agrees. It's quite the 180. Before, he was willing to sacrifice his reputation and relationships for a chance to prove himself as Spider-Man. He even wanted to drop out of school at one point. Now he's all Peter all the time, baby. And his life's better for it. On the night of the homecoming dance, Peter goes to meet Liz at her house, but when he knocks on the door...
Hello, motherfucker.
I'm Liz's dad.
Peter is shocked, befuddled, flabbergasted even. Peter gapes his way through introductions. Then Toombs drives him and Liz to the school. What follows is an amazingly well-crafted and suspenseful interaction. In this scene, great acting, writing, and directing work in harmony. Liz mentions Peter had an internship with Tony Stark and got to meet Spider-Man. This promptly catches Toombs' interest.
Spider-Man? Wow. What's he like?
He probably thinks this is his chance to learn about the guy who's been sabotaging his operations. But as the conversation develops, Toombs gets the feeling he's met Peter somewhere before.
I've seen you around, right? I mean, somewhere have we ever, because of even the voice.
While Peter disguised his voice around Liz and his teacher, he didn't around Toombs. Why bother? Peter never expected he'd run into him like this. Toombs' supposed recognition leads Liz to mention Peter's in AD, and that he went to her party.
You were there for like 2 seconds. You disappeared like you always do, like you did in DC too.
This information turns Toombs' interest into suspicion. Things are starting to add up. Peter worked for Stark. His voice is familiar. And he was at DC and Liz's party, but disappeared both times. As he stops at a red light, Toombs asks a question, the answer to which will either confirm or debunk his developing theory.
It's terrible what happened down there in DC, though. I bet you were glad when your old pal Spider-Man showed up in the elevator, though.
I actually didn't go up. I saw it off on the ground.
Peter's response, coupled with his increasingly anxious demeanor, is all the confirmation Toombs needs. The light turns green, symbolizing his revelation and the golden opportunity he's stumbled upon. Toombs has finally got his hands on Spider-Man.
Good old Spider-Man.
This is partly Peter's fault. He openly advertised his Stark internship. He confronted Toombs despite Tony's instructions, exposing his voice to him. He only went to Liz's party to show off as Spider-Man. And the DC incident only happened because Peter was investigating the alien tech, against Tony's orders. His mistakes and irresponsible actions have led Toombs to learning his identity. Throughout the movie, Peter's actions have incurred several major consequences. He got the suit taken away, escalated Toombs' villainy, and exposed his secret identity. Going into the climax, Peter must face and overcome these obstacles of his own creation. When they arrive at homecoming, Toombs sends Liz in to have a chat with Peter.
Dad, this is ridiculous!
I just want to talk to him. I just want to talk to him. I just want to talk to him. I just want to shoot him.
He casually pulls out a gun and says,
Does she know?
Know what?
So she does it.
Again, Peter's inexperience gets the better of him. He's never been in a situation like this, so he's unable to convincingly play dumb to Toombs' questioning. Toombs cares about nothing more than his family, so out of gratitude for saving his daughter, he'll let Peter live, so long as he never interferes with his business again.
Because if you do, I'll kill you and everybody you love. That's what I'll do to protect my family, Pete.
The confrontation between Peter and Toombs is carefully crafted to be suspenseful and engaging. Peter was caught off guard when Toombs answered the door. At this point in the story, he's quit being Spider-Man and hasn't donned the suit in a hot minute. So stumbling upon the villain he was trying to stop when he expected his homecoming date was not something he anticipated. And for these same reasons, it's not something the audience anticipated either. Like it's done before, the movie put the audience in Peter's perspective, more effectively communicating the anxiety he feels in this unexpected situation. Then, Peter's confined in a car with him. He can't escape without causing a scene or exposing himself, so he's effectively trapped. This ramps up the tension. And then, against Peter's best efforts, Toombs learns his secret identity, putting Peter and his friends and family in sudden danger. At the climax of this sequence, both Peter and the audience are left scrambling for what he should do. It's goddamn beautiful. Peter exits the car in a daze. The sound is muffled, his footsteps are loud, and intense music ramps up. Peter's world has been rocked, and this is reflected in the sound design. He's been put in a difficult situation, causing him to dissociate from the world around him. He approaches the school, seeing his classmates, Ned and MJ having fun, ignorant of the dilemma he's been burdened with. When he enters the dance, the music comes back. Seeing his friends has helped him come to a decision, signaled by his return to reality. He's ready to act. Let's talk about this decision. When Tony took away the suit, Peter quit being Spider-Man and focused on being Peter Parker. As a result, his social life took a strong, positive turn. He repaired his relationships and reputation. He was living his life. And then a villain falls into his lap, in the middle of homecoming, as he's taking his crush to the dance. If Peter leaves to stop Toombs, he will, once more, sacrifice social capital to be Spider-Man. And this is pretty significant social capital. Leaving now will tank his relationship with Liz, probably beyond repair given the circumstances. He was primarily motivated by her to improve his reputation in the first place. And if Peter fails to stop Toombs, that puts his friends and family in danger. He doesn't have the suit, and there's no guarantee Tony will help him out anymore. So he has to do this old school and solo. The stakes are higher than they've ever been, with less resources than he's ever had. It's a high price, yet Peter pays it.
Gotta go. I'm sorry. You don't deserve this.
At his core, Peter is a hero. When he started out, there was no glory or prestige. He was a kid that happened to get superpowers, and decided to use them to help the little guy. At the same time, these circumstances are partly his fault, so he likely feels an obligation to resolve them. That would be the responsible thing to do, after all. Peter grabs his old suit from its hiding place under the lockers, paying off that earlier setup. He rushes out the back, but before he can get his web shooters on, Shocker 2 bitch smacks him.
Gave you a choice. You chose wrong.
Apparently, Toombs had him wait out back in case Peter decided to stop him. Which is impossible. It's been a couple minutes at most since Toombs learned he was Spider-Man. You're telling me he called up Shocker 2, explained the situation, and had him drive to the school in that time? I'm not buying it. Peter gets pummeled by Shocker 2. Buses are tossed and smashed all over the place. It's kind of a miracle the rest of the school doesn't hear this. I know they've got loud music playing, but this is ridiculous. Ned saves Peter using his dropped web shooter. Peter webs up Shocker 2 and tells Ned about Toombs.
I gotta tell Mr. Stark, call Happy Hogan. He's Mr. Stark's head of security.
Peter learned from his mistakes. He wants to call Happy, just like Tony told him to. He wants to get people more experienced and capable than himself involved. This isn't about glory, it's about saving lives.
Get a computer and track my phone for me. Hurry, we gotta catch him before he leaves town.
Peter again proves his quick thinking. He likely remembered Toombs had somewhere to go after dropping them off.
Sir, you don't have to drive us.
Nah, it's not a big deal. I'm going out of town. It's right on my way.
So he deliberately left his phone in his car to track him to his next job. But why is Peter so determined to stop Toombs right now? Theoretically, if he played along with Toombs' ultimatum, Peter would have more time to tell Tony what he knows. However, Toombs threatened his friends and family to protect his business. Peter's not going to risk their safety any longer than necessary. Also, Toombs is headed to a job at that very moment. Peter can't in good conscience stand by and let him sell more weapons to criminals. And again, Toombs is a killer, so innocent lives could be at stake. At the moment, Peter's the only one with the knowledge or ability to stop Toombs. He's trying to rectify this by contacting Happy and Tony, but in the meantime, he has a responsibility to act. Peter commandeers Flash's car and phone, but he doesn't have much driving experience.
Volkswagen, das Auto.
Okay. I know I just said Peter was being all responsible now, but this is more than a little reckless. Did he even need a car in the first place? Surely web swinging would have been faster. It's like Watts came up with this set piece and was dead set on using it even if he couldn't justify it. Ned gets to a computer and starts putting in work. He tracks Peter's phone and calls up Happy, and even instructs Peter on how to turn on the car's headlights. This is the payoff for all that guy in the chair setup. It also demonstrates Ned's intelligence and ability, as he calmly juggles multiple time-sensitive tasks simultaneously, fueled by a desire to help his friend. Happy hangs up as soon as Ned mentions Peter, but before that, Ned notices he's loading boxes onto a plane. Ned tells as much to Peter. He also finds Peter's phone in a Brooklyn warehouse. Both of these facts clue Peter into what's going on. They're moving the stuff from Avengers Tower to the Upping State facility, and Toombs plans to hijack the plane. He's gonna loot Stark Tech and sell it to criminals. Peter can't let that happen, but Happy's not cooperating, so he has no choice but to stop Toombs himself. Now, some might have issues with Peter's deductions.
Boy, your little knees must be sore from jumping to conclusions! Ha-cha-cha!
But I think they make perfect sense. The warehouse Toombs went to is right across from Avengers Tower. Toombs going there on the night of the big move is too convenient to be coincidence. Plus, the move was talked about on the news.
Yeah, don't you watch the news? Tony sold Avengers Tower.
It's public knowledge. It's a perfectly reasonable assumption. Peter arrives at the warehouse. He tells Ned to keep trying to contact Happy as he heads inside, but Ned gets caught by a teacher.
Porn.
So he's on his own. Inside, he confronts Toombs.
You're young. You don't understand how the world works.
Yeah, but I understand that selling weapons to criminals is wrong.
Rather than insist on his maturity, Peter's honest and concedes that he is a kid. But just because he's a kid doesn't mean he doesn't have any fundamental moral convictions. The weapons Toombs sells are dangerous and should most definitely not be in the hands of criminals. Toombs tries to reason with Peter because he feels like they've got some things in common.
Does she know?
Know what?
So she does. Good. Close to the vest. I admire that. I've got a few secrets of my own.
They parallel in a number of ways. Both are intelligent guys that use scavenged tech to create spectacular inventions. Both have secret double lives they keep from their loved ones to protect them, and both have their own guy in the chair. Most significantly, they're both little guys who've been, in one way or another, screwed over by the rich and powerful.
Those people up there, the rich and the powerful, they do whatever they want. Guys like us, you and me, they don't care about us. We have to pick up after them. We have to eat their table scraps.
Toombs was just a guy working for the city, but the cleanup job that would have helped him provide for his family was stolen by Stark and the government. Superpowers aside, Peter's just a kid working for Stark. Or a kid that used to work for Stark.
Peter has an internship with Tony Stark.
Actually, I don't intern for him anymore.
Seriously?
I imagine Toombs remembered this, saw the crappy costume, and guessed the rest. Peter lost Tony's support due to his own mistakes, but Toombs doesn't know that. So as far as he's concerned, they're both little guys that got screwed over by Stark.
You and I are not so different.
Yes, but not so hokey.
For me, the conception of the villain was the idea that if Peter Parker is what it's like when a regular kid becomes a superhero, what would it look like if a regular guy became a supervillain?
But there's one particularly meaningful difference between the two. Toombs uses this to justify harming others for his own benefit, while Peter never would. Despite it all, he remains a hero at his core. Toombs brings down the building on Peter, trapping him beneath rubble. Peter panics, he rips off his mask, and desperately tries to lift the debris, but can't. It's a visceral scene that reminds the audience how young Peter is, and how scary this must be for him.
No! Please! Hey, I'm down here! I'm down here! I'm stuck! I'm stuck! I can't move! I can't...
This twists our perspective of Peter's journey. He's made dumb mistakes for dumb reasons. But he's just a kid, navigating the thorny path of growing up, trying to figure out what the right thing to do is, burdened with more responsibility than most adults have to deal with. It makes his blunders much more understandable. It also makes his eventual triumph all the more impressive and satisfying. Peter stares at his reflection in a pool of water, half of which is covered by his mask, and remembers what Tony said.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
Peter comes to a crucial revelation. He wanted to be Spider-Man, not Peter Parker. But he's Spider-Man because he's Peter Parker. He's become obsessed with the shallow aesthetics of a superhero, rather than what truly makes someone a superhero. He's not Spider-Man because he has a fancy suit. He's Spider-Man because of the strength of his moral character, because he leaps to those in need no matter who they are, because he feels it's his responsibility to use his powers to stop bad things happening. He made so many mistakes because he lost sight of that, lost sight of why he was doing this in the first place. But no longer. He is Peter Parker. He is Spider-Man.
Come on, Peter. Come on, Spider-Man. Come on, Spider-Man. Come on, Spider-Man. Oh, come on, Spider-Man!
It's especially fitting this symbolic shot is created using his original mask, the one he made himself, when he was all alone, just doing his part to help the little guy. The high-tech suit, the fame, the Avenger title, all of that was superficial. Strip it away, and Spider-Man still remains.
There is no secret ingredient.
Remembering this is the culmination of Peter's growth, from irresponsible, inexperienced kid to responsible, inexperienced kid. He summons the strength to lift the debris, the strength to go on and be a hero. It's enough to make a grown man cry.
But what he hasn't done is sort of come to terms with who Peter Parker is. I think that's going to be the journey, is him realizing that you can't move ahead to be Spider-Man until you've really figured out who you are as Peter Parker.
The plane leaves Avengers Tower, and Toombs flies after. Peter manages to hitch a ride, a la Gonzo in Muppet Christmas Carol. Underneath the plane, Toombs deploys a vacuum seal, which lets him safely open a sci-fi hole. It's a self-driving plane, so once inside, he deploys a device that hijacks the autopilot. It'll make Happy think it's still on course, while they redirect it elsewhere. When Toombs realizes Peter's followed him up, he flies out to kill him once and for all. In the process, the plane and Toombs' wings get damaged. A chunk of jet breaks loose, causing the plane to lose altitude. Peter webs one of the wings and steers the plane towards a beach, where it crash lands. So, Peter stops 9/11 too. Although, maybe the people of this universe consider the Battle of New York to be 9/11 too. In that case, Peter stops 9/11 3. Which is good, because that did not need to be a trilogy.
9/11.
Despite the crashing plane, Toombs isn't ready to bail yet.
Get out of there. I'm not going home empty-handed. Get out of there. What are you doing?
He's so overcome with desperation and greed, he unnecessarily risks his life. I mean, after the Ferry Incident, he could have just quit like Shocker 2 suggested. He began all this to provide for his family, and taking such a huge risk unnecessarily jeopardizes their future. But it's no longer just about his family. Tainted by resentment for Stark and hatred for Spider-Man, Toomes is hell-bent on proving a point.
This little bastard in red tights shows up, and he thinks he can tear down everything I built. Really?
And he thinks to himself, what's fair about this? The question that is in his head is, where's mine? When they all have theirs, where's mine? I've been working for mine. You've taken this from me. So he says, I'll figure a way to get mine.
It's like how Peter began superheroing purely to help people, but got sidetracked by his desire to prove himself worthy of being an Avenger. The parallelogram. In the wreckage, Toomes tries to grab a crate and fly off, but his wings malfunction. Peter tries to warn him, but he won't listen.
Time to go home, Pete.
I'm trying to save your life, asshole!
Toomes crashes in a fiery explosion. Dead. At least, he should be dead. Peter drags him to safety, revealing a surprisingly in one piece Toomes. Dude's not even unconscious. What's this guy made of? Steel beam? By saving Toomes, Peter displays his heroism and growth. Not only did he rescue the villain that tried to kill him, he did so by lifting a bunch of debris off him, something Peter did for himself not too long ago. This represents the strength Peter gained by reconnecting with his roots. He just wants to look out for the little guy, and that includes Toomes. Peter webs him up and leaves a note for Happy. I can't help but think this was a missed opportunity. Peter should have signed it, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. It could have been a clever callback, in more ways than one, and a firm sign of character growth.
Can't you just be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man?
At school the next day, Peter finds out Liz is moving to Oregon. Apparently, Toomes doesn't want her in New York for the trial. He's still thinking of his family, even now. A quick tangent, in the mid-credit scene, in prison, Toomes runs into the buyer from the ferry, who asks about Spider-Man's secret identity.
If I knew who he was, he'd already be dead.
When Peter saved him, Toomes gave him a look like he was impressed, like he didn't expect Peter to stick to his moral convictions so strongly. Toomes tried to kill Peter, but he still saved him. In appreciation, Toomes won't rat him out to his enemies.
I just saved your life. Know what do you say?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's a final bit of characterization for a well-developed villain, and the scene does a nice job tying up a potential loose end. Then Toomes gets teleported to the Morbius universe, or something.
I'm not sure how I got here.
Neither am I. Anyway, Peter tells Liz,
Liz, look, I'm so sorry.
You say that a lot. What are you sorry for this time?
Let's talk Liz. At this point in the story, she's fed up with Peter. He's proved himself ultimately flaky and unreliable. He ditched academic decathlon.
I can't go to Washington because if Mr. Stark needs me, then I have to make sure that I'm here.
Really? Right before nationals?
Twice.
You flake. You are so lucky we won.
He ditched her party.
It was a great party. Really great, yeah.
You were there for like 2 seconds.
He ditched her at the dance.
What are you sorry for this time? The dance? That, was a pretty crappy thing to do.
And he didn't have a good excuse for any of these circumstances. Liz agreed to go to the dance with Peter because she clearly likes him. She wants him to be there, to be involved in her life.
Strontium, barium, vibranium.
Very good, Peter. Glad to be back.
Glad to be back.
But at every turn, he let her down. To Liz, he became a constant string of disappointments. So she gives up on him.
Bye, Peter. Whatever's going on with you, I hope you figure it out.
To Peter, Liz represents the price he had to pay to be Spider-Man. To do the right thing, he had to sacrifice this potential relationship. Hold the phone. From Liz's POV, wasn't Homecoming kind of suspicious? Peter had a private talk with her dad. He came back looking traumatized and immediately left. The next day, her dad was revealed to be a criminal that was stopped by Spider-Man. On top of that, one of his employees was found webbed up in the back of the school. Doesn't this line up a little too well for Liz not to notice? What does she think happened?
You look pretty.
What did you say?
I said you look shitty. Good night, Denise.
Peter reconciles with Happy and Tony. He's driven to the Upstate Avengers facility, and since he put things right and proved himself responsible, Tony wants to make him an official member of the team. He's even got a brand new suit. Shiny. But the thing is...
Thank you, Mr. Stark. But I'm good. I'd rather just stay on the ground for a little while. Friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Somebody's gotta look out for the little guy, right?
Peter's realized he's still wet behind the ears. He needs to work his way up to Avengers level. So he's taking Tony's advice.
Stay close to the ground. Build up your game helping the little people.
He no longer has designs on becoming an Avenger for glory or prestige. He wants to do what he's always done. help people, and join when he's ready. What's funny is that Peter thinks this was some kind of test, but Tony was totally serious. Just goes to show that while Tony's trying his best, he's very new to the whole mentor, big brother, father figure thing. He cares, but he doesn't quite know what he's doing.
He's attempting, in his own half-assed way, to do some modern parenting. And also, the stakes are a lot higher than are you going to get a ticket or be an offender bender. I mean, you know, he's self-aware enough to know that he might not be making the right decisions, but you do what you can, and he's a lot more personable than he used to be.
When Peter gets home, he finds the suit waiting for him. By growing as a person, he's proving he should have it. It's the cherry on top of this character arc sundae. Okay, that's pretty funny, but it's kind of a lame way for May to find out he's Spider-Man. He just forgets to close the door. Close that fucking door! Regardless, given Peter's concerns about May finding out, I'm interested to see what they'll do with this next movie. And that's the end. Spider-Man Homecoming is really good. I'm impressed by its tightly written script and attention to detail, and how both develop quality characterization, world building, and plot in organic and deliberate ways. But that's not to say Homecoming is perfect. Its biggest issues come down to contrivance, whether it's violence being a little less lethal than it should be, or things lining up just right to push the plot along. There's a good peppering of convenience throughout. It's the one major flaw in the script. On the other hand, just one of its major pros is Peter's arc, which is exceedingly well crafted, with a third act that works perfectly to cap it off. Peter getting involved in the climax at all, and how he gets involved, speak volumes about his growth and maturity. I think that's what the title means. Aside from the finale taking place during the homecoming dance, it refers to Peter's arc. He loses his way, but in the end, returns to his roots, to his core values. He makes a homecoming of sorts.
The only way for me to solve this crisis is to be
Spider-Man Homecoming.
Oh, that's why they call it that.
Also, it probably refers to Spider-Man returning to Marvel Studios, but that's less interesting. As a character-driven story, Homecoming's climax intrinsically relies on Peter's character and arc. Peter's characterization is woven into its DNA. Character and plot feed into each other and synergize. This infuses the story with a rich level of depth and meaning. In fact, aside from the random car chase, every action sequence is like this.
You want to make sure that the action scenes are driven by character and they feel totally essential, and it doesn't feel like the story has been paused for a moment so that you can have a big action sequence and then unpause it and you go back to the story.
Homecoming sets out to tell the story of how a kid becomes a superhero in an already established MCU.
We got to tell this story about what it's like to grow up on the outside of all these adventures from the perspective of somebody who grew up idolizing these people.
It's the story of how Peter Parker grapples with responsibility, identity, and what it means to be a hero in a world already full of them. And it tells that story amazingly, which is why Spider-Man Homecoming is better than you remember. Bitch. Thanks for watching, with a special thanks to channel member whatever. If you want to become a member, click join below. For $1, you get access to custom emojis and members-only polls and posts. For $3, you get access to members-only videos and end-of-video shoutouts. If you're interested in other MCU content, I've got 1 or 2 videos on Hulk. And stay tuned for the next part in my Spider-Man coverage. Till next time.